Hey, just got a new order in today. A couple of days ago, I placed an order to Primary Arms for their ACSS reticle 1 to 8 power scope. It's a second focal plane scope. Now I ordered that, let's say on Wednesday, and I received notice right away that it shipped that day. It shipped by priority mail, and then today, on Saturday, it arrived. So nice fast shipping, and it's free. So now I'm not going to call this an unboxing because I've already unboxed it. But this is the scope, Primary Arms. As I noted already, this is a lifetime warranty scope, so it's similar to some of the other really nice scopes that we have on the market today. This again is the 1 to 8 power with the patented ACSS reticle. Now, I'm really excited to try that thing out. I didn't really know anything about this. My son is the one who kind of put me onto it, telling me all about this reticle and looking at a number of different reviews on it. I'm excited to see how this really works for the 556 or 223. And if you've been watching our channel, you know that we just finished up a season of extreme reloading, the 556. I didn't have this at that time, and that's just fine. I was using an EOTech on my Tavor, using a Vortex Spitfire on the AR-15, and then just using PEEP sights, the iron sights on the Ruger Mini 14. This is going to replace the Vortex scope that's on the AR-15. That Vortex scope, by the way, is okay, but what I kind of don't like about it has a very small field of view. It's a very small scope, so we kind of anticipated that. But it almost looks, and I noted this earlier, it almost looks like it's less than 1 power. Now it's stated as being a 1 power scope, but it almost looks like it's 0.9, 0.95. Things look just a little smaller in that scope than they do when you glance away from the scope. Anyway, let's talk about the Primary Arms scope. Now this scope is their Gen 3 reticle. It comes with flip-up scope covers. It's an illuminated reticle with 11 different brightness settings, and by default it's set at 0. Of course, it's turned off. And one thing that I noticed right away, whenever I look at a scope, I like to look at the clarity of that scope, and it has nice clear glass. I don't see any tint at all that sometimes you see in a lower quality glass. Sometimes you see a little bit of bluish tint. So I don't see any of that. I wouldn't anticipate that from a scope like this. Again, it's 1 to 8 power. Then the other thing that I noticed very quickly is it has a very, what I'll call a very generous eye relief. What I mean by that is that as I'm looking out here, I get a nice, full view here. I'm still getting a full view here, here. Now I'm starting to get a little bit of a black halo. I'll back it out. Okay, so notice that there. And I keep that full view without a black halo. Of course, now I'm starting to get the black halo about out to there. So I could really set that scope probably a couple inches of leeway this way or that way based on how it's comfortable for me and exactly where I want it mounted on that AR-15. Now the mount, by the way, we kind of decked it out here a little bit. Went with the American Defense Manufacturing, that's the ADM Recon. This, by the way, is a 30 millimeter tube, so this is a 30 millimeter rings. This is a full mount. And we got the Recon that has the QDs. I think all ADMs are QD, quick detach. But we got the mount that has 2 locking points. The Scout has a single locking point. And I wanted something a little bit more secure because, hey, it's 5.56, but we've had lots of different mounts on this gun, and that repeated firing kind of in quick succession, it seems, a lot of things wiggle loose, and I don't really like that. It really messes things up on you. I anticipate this will not. wiggle loose. So one of the first things that you want to do when you get any of these new scopes is to set the diopter. That is essentially, you'll take off this flip cap right over here. A diopter ring is right there, and you're going to adjust it to your eyes. Well, this is really a gun that my son shoots mostly, almost exclusively, really, and so it has been set to his eyes. You want to set that diopter, and what you're doing there is you're focusing the reticle for your eyes, and you're going to do that at maximum power, in this case the 8 power. What you should be able to do then is pop that scope up, and you should be able to read that reticle clearly. And on this reticle, this ACSS reticle, there are some numbers printed on it. You should be able to see the 4, the 8, the 6, which indicates 400, 600, 800 meters, I believe. Perhaps it is yards. I suppose it doesn't make too much of a difference with something like this. This scope has half MOA adjustments. You'll just obviously just remove the turret caps here, make those adjustments, and from that point on, it's set that you will use the BDC, bullet drop compensating reticles, that are inside the scope. You're going to be looking through it. So it won't be something that you're going to be turning in so many adjustments, so many MOA up or down or whatever it happens to be. So make their initial adjustments here, get it zeroed in as you like it, then you're going to do everything else from here. It has 140 MOA total adjustments in both elevation and in windage, so that's a lot. And so we're going to go ahead and get this thing mounted on this AR-15, and then we're going to bore sight it and have it ready to head out to the range. And here is the finished product. Got this set just as we like it. Give the proper eye relief to give a nice clear picture when shouldered, and you get a decent cheek weld on this. One thing I'll note is that when installing this ADM, that was really very simple. The rings here, one simple note, and it's nothing to do with ADM, these hex head bolts are 9/64ths of an inch. I like to use this Wheeler fat wrench. It's a torque screwdriver, and of course I set this to 23 inch-pounds. The recommended range by ADM is 20 to 25, so I was going to shoot right there in the middle, 23 inch-pounds. But this kit does not come with a 9/64ths hex key insert. So I had to quickly pause things and run over to Lowe's, and they do have a kit over there that has the 9/64ths in it, plus a bunch of other things for about $15. Recommendation then is to have all your stuff in place so you don't end up having to put everything on hold just to properly torque these rings and hold the scope secure. I'm going to go ahead and bore sight this thing now. In the bore sighting, I'm going to use this sight mark tool. And this is kind of an interesting, nice little tool. Let me show you what it looks like. So what you do is you insert 2 of these batteries into this modified case. As you can see already, it's operational. Now what we're going to do is we're simply going to close up the case, and then we'll insert that into the chamber of the rifle and complete our bore sighting. Now, the red dot that we're looking at, that's a dot from this bore sighting tool. And now what I'm going to do is I'm slowly increasing the illumination on this reticle. And then reducing it again I don't know if you can see it, but now the ACSS reticle is in sync, if we want to call it that, or agreeing with the red dot. We're going to see how good this bore sighting worked. We got target out there, 25 yards, going to do 3 shots. And right now the sight and the bore are aligned. We'll see how well that really agrees. Not bad. This certainly gets us on paper. And for 25 yards, it's a bit high and obviously a little bit to the left. Now it's my turn with this ACSS primary arm scope. I'm going to be testing out the BDC reticles, shooting at 300 yards, which will be at the top of the post. I'm going to hold to the top of the post of this reticle. I'm going to hold that at center mass, and we'll see how it does. Now I'm not using XM193 or 193 ammo. I'm using some of my reloads that are really accurate, so I may not get a precise agreement between this reticle and the actual point of impact, but I'm just curious if I get in the ballpark with it. So I'll have a silhouette type target out there, and we'll get shooting and give this thing a try. Alright, let's take a look at these results here. Now, my point of aim was here, and I kind of double checked that as I was shooting, because I noticed that when I put the top of the post of that ACSS reticle, when I placed it here, that the tip of the chevron was here. So that was kind of my verification to make sure that I was holding with a fairly precise point of aim, as precise as I can get at 300 yards with a power scope. So if we take a look at that, that drop from here to here is pretty much 1 foot, 12 inches. Now that 12-inch drop is the calculated drop of the M193 55 grain bullet. And so that makes good sense that the tip of that chevron would be here, top of the post at 300 yards is here. But you'll notice that my rounds impacted fairly lower. This is some sort of flyer over here, but they all impacted fairly lower. But this is not. I was not shooting M193s. In fact, I was shooting 69 grain Barnes match burners that I've been reloading. And when I run the trajectory calculations on those rounds, my drop at 300 yards is not 12 inches, but actually 17.5, almost 18 inches. So let's take a look at that. Drop from here to there, there's my 18-inch mark. Maybe I dropped just a little bit more, but gee, that is actually really close. So it looks like that ACSS reticle is doing about what it should be doing. I suspect if I was actually shooting M193s, I would have been impacting about here. That is not a big deal when you're shooting 300 yards with an AR-15. I'm not too concerned with that. So I was really wondering how that bullet drop compensator would work on this ACSS, and what I'm seeing here is it looks like it's pretty much the real deal. It's going to work pretty well for you, and I'm kind of impressed on how well this is working.